What you're about to see is a real-life story. He worked out frauds by which confidence make more money each year from the Americans with their violence.
Braddock. Captain Braddock. Ready.
I call this the perpetual pellet case, and the last time I encountered it was last summer, though I must admit I didn't recognize it at first. It was brought to my attention by a very pretty and indignant young lady by the name of Marion Paulson.
And every time I mention it, Don gives me that smug, superior smile of his.
Won't you sit down, Miss Paulson, please? Now, let's give this another run-through, only a little slower.
I always talk fast when I'm furious. And nothing in this world, Captain Braddock, can infuriate me like masculine stubbornness. Why, the first moment I met that man, I knew that he wasn't honest.
Which one are you referring to now?
Cahill, of course. Ralph P. Cahill. He's a real estate man from Detroit, he says.
Oh, then Don is the stubborn one.
Well, at that, he's no worse than my father.
Oh, your father's involved in this, too.
Yes, and he just won't hear one word against Cahill. And Johnny Peters, he's in Hawaii, and, so I just can't prove anything.
Johnny Peters? Now, where did he come from? No, don't tell me. Let's start right at the beginning, from the first time that you met Cahill.
Well, it was last week. About Tuesday, I think. Or maybe it was Wednesday. I was downtown in the forenoon, and I thought I'd let John take me to lunch. So I went up to his office about 12:30. He was supposed to take me to lunch.
I was? Gee, I guess it must have slipped my mind.
I mean, I want you to. Couldn't you get somebody else to take care of your client?
Well, it isn't business, I don't think. It's a friend of Johnny Peters. He's in town for a few days. He called me this morning, so I suggested we have lunch. Oh, darling, I couldn't let Johnny down. He's the best friend a guy ever had. Why, when we get married, Johnny will be right there beside me, holding me up.
Well, I suppose I can't offend Johnny unless I want you falling down at the wedding. I'll run along.
I tell you what, why don't you stay and meet him? If he doesn't have business on his mind, you can go to lunch with us.
No, I wouldn't want to be in your way. Besides, I'm not going to be the kind of woman who interferes in her husband's business affairs. Bye.
Sounds like the perfect wife, Mr. Stevens. I hope I didn't arrive at an awkward moment. I'm Ralph Cahill.
Oh, not at all. We've been waiting for you. Well, this is great. So you're a friend of Johnny Peters?
Yes, you and Johnny were fraternity brothers, weren't you?
Oh, that we were. Closer than Damon and Runyon. I'd like you to meet my fiancée, Miss Paulson, Mr. Cahill.
How do you do?
Hello, Miss Paulson. I've heard about you from Johnny, too.
Nothing good, I hope.
He said that Mr. Stevens got himself engaged to the prettiest girl west of Detroit. The geographical limitations are Johnny's, I assure you.
Thank you.
She's an all-American with me. As a matter of fact, I was trying to persuade her to have lunch with us. That is, unless you have some business to discuss.
Oh, nothing like that. I was hoping to impose on you for a favor.
Oh?
Well, you see, I'll be in town for a week, possibly longer. I didn't know anybody. Johnny suggested that I called you, and...
Well, any friend of Johnny's.
I was hoping to get in a little golf while I was here. Johnny thought that you might arrange for a courtesy card at the club.
Oh, well, is that all?
He did say that he'd phone you the day I got in yesterday. I guess he forgot.
That's right, he did call. I was out. My secretary took the message. It said Johnny called. It never occurred to me it was Johnny Peters.
I should have known that he wouldn't forget. Of course, if it's inconvenient...
No, not at all. Consider it done. I tell you what, we'll go to the club and have lunch, and I'll fix you up while we're there.
Well, that sounds wonderful. My car's just downstairs.
Swell.
There you are, gentlemen. Something to shoot at.
Nice shot, Dad.
That runs in the family, Don. We're in for a beating.
What do you think of our little course from here?
Splendid, magnificent.
And deadly, like a woman?
Do you hold that women are deadly, Mr. Cahill?
Well, I never underestimate the power of one.
Did you come here to play golf, Marion?
Sorry, Dad.
I take my golf seriously.
Man after my own heart, Mr. Paulson.
Well, nice going, Ralph.
Miss Paulson, I have a call here from Mr. Stevens. Is he still out on the course?
No, he's in the showers. Perhaps I better take it. It might be important.
Long distance.
Hello. This is Mr. Stevens' fiancée. I'll be glad to... Johnny? Johnny Peters? Where are you calling from? Chicago? What are you doing in Chicago? You what? Hawaii? Huh. Well, that's funny. Your friend Ralph didn't say a word about it. Ralph Cahill, of course. We just finished 1800. You what? You never heard of him?
It was a tailor-made situation for Cahill. He'd met Johnny Peters on the train from Detroit, learned enough from him to make a contact through Don with the country club set. He knew that Johnny had phoned Don from the station, and he used that to his advantage. The next step was to meet a wealthy victim and soften him up, unaware of Johnny's second phone call.
Why, he came here and he said he was one of your closest friends. He knew all about you and Don being in college together and being fraternity brothers. Well, I just can't believe it. Why, no, he seemed to know you so well and... Well...
That was one of Johnny's favorite tricks in college. You know, I never met the man before in all my life. He just wants to make Ralph squirm, that's all.
But he said that...
Now, darling, I'm a good judge of men, and I think this Ralph Cahill is the real article. Did you know he won a race in Indianapolis? He showed me the clippings. Marion, you're going to feel awfully foolish when you find out this is one of Johnny Peters' gags.
Well, all I have to say is he just better watch his step.
And so they played golf together the next few days, and a warm friendship developed between them.
You know, if I started the game 20 years sooner, I'll be darned if I wouldn't have liked to take a chance at tournament golf.
There's big money in it, but it's a young man's game.
Yeah, I was busy making money then. I suppose as a kid, you were all wrapped up in race cars.
Well, golf did seem rather tame at 19 when there was a chance of breaking my neck on a speedway.
Still like a bit of speed, I bet, huh? What is it?
Well, that didn't last long.
What's the matter?
It's embarrassing, but I seem to be out of gas. I could swear I told that garage attendant to fill it up this morning.
You sure picked a great place for it. We're a mile and a half from a gas station.
It always is. Sit tight. I think I have some in my trunk. Here's some snapshots I took of Florida last winter. It'll only be a minute.
No hurry.
What's he gonna do, take a shower? What's he doing with that hose?
Fill the radiator, I suppose.
It's gas we're out of. Pretend to be looking at those pictures. I think Ralphie boy's gonna try to pull a fast one. This ought to be good. What's he up to? What's he doing?
I never saw that gag before.
How about that?
I thought I had an emergency gallon. What the?
Yes, we watched you. You've been holding out on us.
Your two best pals. Well, I'm shocked, Ralph.
I don't know what you're...
The little white pellets.
And the tank full of gasoline. Come on, pal, give out.
Listen, do me a favor. Forget everything you saw. It's the first time I ever did it where anybody could see it. I should have walked that mile and a half. You must promise never to mention a word about this to anyone.
Now, wait a
No,
minute.
I'm sorry. I can't talk about it. That's all there is to it.
It's a fine way to act to your friends. I never expected this sort of treatment from you,
No,
Ralph.
Don, Ralph is perfectly right. It's none of our business, so let's not press him. I know we'd be the first ones he'd come to.
In a moment, we'll follow up the perpetual pellet case. Now, let's follow up the perpetual pellet case.
But one of the practice runs, I let Zelenka, that was his name, fill up my gas tank with water. I remember how stupid I felt letting him do it, knowing all the time those little white pellets couldn't possibly work.
They did work. Like today, they worked like a charm. I bet you gave the big oil companies a scare.
Why do you think those pellets aren't selling on every drugstore counter as they should be?
He could make them that cheaply.
3 for a quarter when you got into mass production. I guess the $500,000 that the oil companies paid Zelinka was money well spent.
I should darn well think so. It should have been $10 million a year at least.
No, but they played it smart. Zelinka was just a struggling little refugee who'd never seen $1,000 all in one piece. When they walked into his lab with that bushel basket with those nice, crisp bills, little man was sunk. He told me afterwards he sat down beside the money and cried.
Confidentially, Ralph, how much did you get out of it?
$50,000?
A lousy $50,000?
And my health. 2 large, hard-faced gentlemen called on me with some very good advice as how to avoid contusions and fractures. Oh, they were very polite to me. They had my best interests at heart. They suggested that I forget all about Carl Zelinka and his little magic pills. So I took the $50,000 and set myself up in the real estate business.
And I'll be darned if I would have. I'd have kicked up such a fuss.
Perhaps you would have, Don. But remember, 17 years ago, I was just a 2-bit race car driver. Wouldn't I have looked silly going up against those big oil companies? Would you believe me in those days if I told you that I could make synthetic gasoline out of water?
Well, if you told me this yesterday, I would have believed you. What I saw today was a real eye-opener.
I thought you gentlemen might be getting hungry.
As our friend Don says, that's for me.
Be sure and help yourself, Mr. Cahill.
No, thanks. Say, by the way, Ralph, whatever became of this man Zelinka?
I don't know. He lives in Chicago, I think. Ran into him there one windy day about 3 years ago. The same big-eyed little man in a shabby overcoat and a German accent. He was glad to see me. We had a nice long talk.
Did he mention the pellets?
The trap was set and baited. Howard and Don began to sense some easy money.
Now, look, Ralph. After you left last night, Don and I went over this very carefully. We considered every angle. And we agreed that there were certain ifs involved. But you showed me one big business adventure that hasn't got them.
I know.
Now, wait a minute. Let's assume that this man Zelinka's got to have some money. Not $500,000 naturally, but say 30 or 40,000 for an option on the formula. Later on, there'll be more, millions. Plenty for us all.
Well, if he only had the cash like the other time. Oh, I don't know, Howard. He may be smart enough.
We've got to make him understand this time that it's merely a down payment. And he'll be a director in a brand new industry. Why, I can raise enough money in this town right now to go into production. We can sell stock, incorporate. Why, my boy, this could be the biggest thing since the invention of the wheel.
But what about the interferences from the oil companies? Even if we keep our negotiations secret, once we have the formula, aren't we going to run into lawsuits and injunctions?
Let's get the formula first. Then I'll get my legal advisors to tell us what we can and can't do. And if it comes to it, let the oil industry protect us in our investment.
Howard, that's nothing more nor less than legal blackmail.
No, it isn't. It's merely sharp business. As I pointed out to Don last night, we'd be doing a public service by exposing the oil companies. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us all to make a nice, neat little profit. And that wouldn't be hard to take, would it?
Dad, I'm going to drive Don down to his office.
Did you tell him? Everything all set, Ralphie?
Well,
I think Ralph's going to see it our way.
You know, it sounds too good to be true. Don told me the whole story, and it's simply fascinating. He said that when you made that gasoline yesterday, it seemed just like magic. I wish you'd make some for me.
Now, Marion.
Well, I would like to sometime, but I have a full tank right now.
My tank's almost empty, and I would have to stop at the gasoline station. Now, if you'd make me some, I wouldn't have to. You do have some of the pellets with you, don't you?
Well, I do have some in my car.
Well, good. Come on, let's go out and do it now. Isn't this exciting, Mr. Cahill?
Yes, very.
About 6, if you please, my good man. Don, bring the hose.
Marion, I think you're behaving very badly.
Well, Dad, the public will be skeptical. They'll want a demonstration. That's all I'm asking for.
All right, Don. Turn it on.
That'll be enough for my purpose, Mr. Cahill.
All right, Don, turn it off.
Now for the pellets.
right. Get in the car and start up the motor.
Well?
Oh, shut up.
Suspicious?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I pretended to be a lawyer. I told them that a relative in Germany had died and that Zelinka got a small inheritance.
Good. And Zelinka?
Well, he's frightened. There's no doubt that he needs the money, but he's scared to death of the oil people.
Will he see us?
After dark, we've got to be careful.
We will be. We'll move quiet and fast. Let's see, if we leave this afternoon, we'll be in Chicago by evening. Don, how much money have you raised?
I got $9,000.
You, Ralph?
Well, 3 was the best I could manage on so short notice if I had more time.
We can't wait.
But we've got to have enough money to satisfy old Zelinka.
Leave the strategy to me. This isn't the first deal I put over. Besides, I've raised a little more cash than I expected.
How much?
Well, if necessary, I could go as high as $55,000. And with the $12,000 you and Don raised, why, it'd be better than $65,000.
$65,000.
I'm very much afraid you were mousetrapped, Miss Paulson. Somehow, Cahill must have sensed that you were suspicious of him. And instead of your tricking him, he was leading you on all the while.
Oh.
Now, this is the gimmick. This is what made the trick work. Usually, the con man employs this as a final convincer for the victim. But in this case, he seems to have roped his mark, your father, without it. So he decided to use it to quiet your suspicions.
You mean there was one like that in my gas tank?
That's right. I can't say whether he put it there ahead of time or whether he slipped it out of his sleeve practically in front of you. Now, this bent wire hooks over the edge of the intake. The weighted end, of course, will drop to the bottom. When the bladder is filled, it expands, displacing enough gas to raise the float in the tank. That's why your gas gauge recorded it.
But how did he get it out?
He didn't. While you were getting into your car, he quickly slipped in a cork like this, slipped off the hook, and the whole business dropped to the bottom of the tank. And before it would be discovered, Mr. Cahill would be far, far away.
Yeah, all right. Not like this, Cahill. I told you it could be dangerous. You know that.
I know, Carl. But these gentlemen have a proposition I think you should hear.
I'm not a banker, Cahill. I'm a chemist. What do I know about financial things? Once I had more money than I could count. I covered myself with it to keep warm. Where is it now? Why do they tell me I can no longer buy the things I need for my work? I cannot find the answers if I do not have these things.
If you're interested in selling the formula for the gas pellets, they'll pay you a large sum of money.
You've forgotten, Cahill. That was sold long ago so I could continue with my work. Could I buy this, and this with no money? That is why I had to sell my formula.
I know, Carl, but you don't understand. That was 17 years ago. The statute of limitations has run out. The people that bought your formula no longer own it. You're free to sell it again.
So...
Get ready to spring the money on him.
Right.
We'll cover him with it.
Yeah. Here's where I found my first little answer. But 2 long years.
We can make you a very attractive proposition.
Propositions. I do not understand such matters.
Well, here's something you will understand.
Oh, look, Cahill.
All yours for the notebook.
Look, just like before. You remember, Cahill? There was so much then also, yeah.
Now, if you just sign this contract.
Oh, nine. I do not know what I am saying. I must think about this. Tomorrow. You come then and we will talk. I must be careful not to make a mistake.
No, it's got to be done now. Tomorrow's too late, Professor.
Tonight is too soon for me. Cahill, tell them I must have time.
It's a lot of money, Carl. I think you should take it.
Yeah. You I trust. I will sign. Yeah.
Speak to me. How about some pellets, Professor?
Yeah. Sure.
This is what I want. Get my head on something solid. This will make Uncle John rich.
Okay, everybody, stand right where you are. I'm sorry, folks, but I've got to arrest the occupant of this house.
On what charge are you arresting this man?
You better speak to the captain. I just take orders.
This is an outrage. Where's your warrant?
You live here, too?
Certainly not. I merely dropped in to visit an old friend.
Maybe we better take him down, too, George. He's an old friend.
You've no authority to hold me.
I think I have plenty. Maybe we better take in the lot of them, George.
I suppose it's all right to ask to see your warrant and whatever credentials you carry.
Get a load of this guy, George. He wants to see a badge.
Certainly. How do we even know that you're a policeman?
Probably works. Run for it, Howard!
Do you have the notebook?
Yes. Where's Ralph? Didn't he get out?
I didn't see him after the lights went out. There was a shot. Do you think he's in there?
We ought to go back.
Yeah, we can't desert him now.
Too late.
Let's get out of here.
Come in, gentlemen. I've been expecting you. Sit down, please. By now, you have undoubtedly discovered that you were swindled. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I suppose you had the pellets analyzed?
Yes. They were nothing but mothballs dipped in something to kill the smell. They were phony.
What about Ralph Cahill? Miriam said...
Yes, Mr. Stevens. And Professor Zelinka, the great chemist, too.
But the lab in the house?
Rented for the evening from the caretaker. The family's in Europe. The test tubes and the rest of the props were rented or bought for a few dollars. I dare say it was quite a show. It usually is once you've accepted the initial pitch.
Seemed like a nice guy.
And he had such a nice illegal scheme for making some easy money. That's the boob catcher, always. But you could have saved yourself all this trouble simply by checking on Cahill right in the beginning. Particularly since you were warned.
Should have my head looked at. Some of that money didn't belong to me. I borrowed it.
I'm wiped out. Ruined.
Well, if you're not, you have your daughter to thank. If she hadn't come to me with her story, Cahill and his friends would have gotten away. Fortunately for you, why, the Chicago police moved in right after you left and arrested them.
Do you think is there any chance of recovering our money?
Yes, but you'll have to testify against them. Now, the reason more of these confidence gangs don't go to jail is because their victims are too ashamed to go to court and admit they were fleeced. Apprehending criminals is only half the job. Convicting them so that they are sent to prison is up to you. You who have been swindled. Cooperate with your police department. Give them a chance to protect you. But first of all, investigate. Investigate before you invest. Remember, it could happen to you. Posing this case now, or rather the courts will, but there'll be others, because that's the way the world is built. Remember, there are people who can slap you on the back with one hand and pick your pocket with the other. And it could happen to you.